hopefully that whole list of people will show up on the recording too, but we'll see. And I will share my screen. Oh, and then it goes away, and that bothers me. All right, there we go. Can everybody see my screen? All right. So I know some of you have probably been around long enough. You've seen this one before. I don't, it's not one I normally use, but it does have a lot of really good information. I know for some of you that it's going to be a review, but when you've been around as long as I have, a review is not ever a bad thing. On occasion, they change something and I have to adjust. So if you will bear with me, and if you've got questions, you can pop in or add it in the chat. Heather's saying she can't see my screen. It says it's showing up. So you're still just seeing me? Did that help any? Okay. We'll rock on with it, and I will send you the PowerPoint or the link to the PowerPoint if we're missing getting to see it right now. But I do appreciate you spending the time with us tonight. I truthfully would really much rather be in, in a room together so we can see each other. But I also, it would be kind of nice to be sitting on the couch and just hanging out and listening to it. So we do have more people participating tonight than we normally do at this meeting. So there must be some advantage at some point. We're going to focus on the club manager roles and responsibilities and move forward with that. That's the biggest thing tonight is, one, the new ones that are coming in, kind of giving them an introduction to it. Those of you that have been with us, a refresher, but also your feedback and helping the new ones get adjusted to this role and helping answer some of those questions. Like I said, it's better when we're all sitting together so you can network, because y'all learn as much from each other as you do from me. As we move forward, so we're going to talk about the big picture of 4-H club management. We'll visit about the qualifications and expectations, your duties as a 4-H club manager, and we're going to hit on the youth and adult partnerships. Y'all are a part of a leadership team, and you're providing guidance and to that youth adult partnership. So, and that's a part of what we're doing, is educating and training young people on what they're supposed to be doing and how to learn those skills. So we'll move into that. So we have a little test just to get started. And I know the screen says to stand up. Some of you we can see and some of you can't, so that won't really work. But we'll do kind of a true false, and if you'll just type into the chat which you think it is. If it's something that we ought to be doing as a club manager, it's true. And if it's something we should not be doing as a club manager, it's false. So the first one is, we should attend club manager trainings. Yep. That's one of the things we need to be doing. That's one of the places where we can learn new information, um, get the details, but it's also a place where we can network and learn from each other and maybe not have to reinvent the wheel. Share successes and challenges so that we're learning from each other on that part of it. So next is that we need to create a club atmosphere that is inclusive. True or false? Yep, that one's pretty easy. We are trying to make sure everybody feels included and feels a part of the club. So it's our responsibility to enroll all of the 4-H club members and leaders on 4-H Connect. You're absolutely right. It is our responsibility to encourage them to get it done. It is our responsibility to guide them and help them if they can't figure it out on their own. But for us to sit down in front of the computer and walk through with every single individual child is not teaching them how to stand on their own 2 feet. So helping them do it, showing them how, or guiding them, but it is not a responsibility that we need to be doing individually. So we ought to exclude new members from leadership roles in the club. That is correct. We are not here to exclude kids from leadership. We, as a new member, they can do some leadership things, even if they didn't or don't get elected to an office. And I know some of us have, like even at county council, we've got a bylaw that says they have to have attended 50% of the meetings to be eligible to run for an office. But there are lots of other leadership roles in our clubs that we do need to be encouraging those members to take part in and help with. So are you supposed to be submitting appropriate paperwork to the extension office in a timely manner? Yep, that one's kind of a given. The charter paperwork, everybody, just got all of that done. There'll be a few other things through the year, but that's probably the most significant one. It is your job to teach all the 4-H projects for the whole club. Exactly right. That is false. That is not something, it might be something you could accomplish in some of our smaller clubs, but it doesn't do anything to build your leadership team. It doesn't do anything to build the volunteers in the club. And you get burned out, so then it's not a good experience for everybody else. So you are correct. That is false. Plan every club meeting and tell the officers what the plan is. Yay! We're batting 1,000. You're going to plan that club meeting together. And I assure you that I know firsthand it's a whole lot easier to hand them the agenda and say, here you go. But that does not do anything to help them begin to think through those things themselves. We do put together a draft agenda from the previous, what did we do last year at this time? But it's a conversation with the officers and what else they want to try to do, what they want to add to it, and a lot of discussion at the beginning of the year and the planning process. There's a few more. Communicate with the agent only when there's a problem within the club. Correct. That is false. We like to hear from you when there's good stuff going on. We like to help you try to bypass any problems, get ahead of the game, try to address things before they become a problem. So regular communication with the office. I'm more than happy to visit with you about anything as we go along. You're going to rely on the agents to train your officers. You are right. That is false. We are not having officer training at the same time this year that we normally do. County Council and Justin and I visited, and several of you did not get to elect your officers yet. And we don't know when we're going to start having face-to-face. So we're going to postpone our officer training, our leadership team training for this year. There is, and in the agenda, I attached the flyer for it. There is a leadership training that's virtual. And we are encouraging everybody to go ahead and participate in that. It is open to any 4-H member that wishes to participate. So that's an opportunity that's out there. Any of them can do that and learn about the responsibilities for the offices so they can begin to consider what's going to be an option or what kind of office they would like to have. But your boots on the ground, you're the one that's with them on a monthly basis or 2 or 3 times a month. So they're going to need that support and that training from you in the moment. As a club manager, it's your job to amend the Texas 4-H rules and guidelines. Yeah, that's a document that's pretty much set in stone from the state office and not something that we can make adjustments to. It is your job to empower other volunteers to take leadership roles. That is definitely the case. It is your job to be working yourself out of a job. We are in the we're in the business of building adult volunteers as much as we are in building youth development skills. So yes, you need to empower those volunteers. Know that they are not going to do it the same way you would do it, and trust that it will, you'll learn a new way to do it. They may come up with some creative ideas that would be a benefit and would help in a different way. So it won't be exactly like you would do it, but that's all right. Empower them to take on those responsibilities. Some of y'all have heard me say it a dozen times. It is just little bite-sized pieces. Ask them to take on this one little task that you know they kind of like to do. And then the next time a little bit bigger task, and encourage them. And then the next time a little bit bigger one. And the next thing you know, they will have taken ownership of it and it will be all theirs. Rely on the agent to provide recognition for 4-H club members and leaders. That is false. It is impossible for Justin and I to be able to provide the the type of recognition that your families need. Your boots on the ground, you're seeing them on a regular basis, you're able to see the individual things that they're doing, and that's not something that we can see at the county level unless you tell us. So it is more significant to them coming from you to provide that recognition to them. Be a positive role model for youth and adults. That is definitely true. That needs to be, you're the one that everybody's looking up to. You've taken on the responsibility to be standing at the front of the room. And so be someone that they can look up to, be someone they'll be proud to be a part of. I have an unknown user that keeps trying to get in, and I'm sorry, I'm not admitting someone that isn't willing to type in their name. Sorry about that. What's next? So, volunteers. What is the big picture in club management? And that's volunteers. All of y'all are fully aware that it's not a job that you can do by yourself as a club manager. That's why you've recruited an assistant manager. I would encourage those clubs that have related people as an assistant manager. I would look at trying to find a third assistant manager that's not related, only because if something happens at the house, you're not going to leave the other one by themselves to take care of it. If something happens in the family, it's most likely to take both family members to go and take care of that family situation. So it is always best to try to have someone outside of the family, two separate families, to be managers and assistant managers. Volunteers are the key to our success. They are what's going to keep the succession of this club going. We have had a few clubs drop the last couple of years, and it falls down to having not having parents or volunteers that have been groomed and recruited and brought into the fold to try to be a club manager and feel like confident enough to have that skill to do that. So empower those parents and volunteers to take that on. You're important role models for youth. So one of the things that's Heather, how many clubs are in the county right now? I think we're down to 22. I don't have a good count, and we have a couple that we do not have their charter paperwork back yet, so I can't give you an exact answer right this second. When you look at the things that are required for youth development, the things that successful youth have behind them, one of those things is adults outside of their family that are involved and interested in their lives. So as a volunteer, and having volunteers adult volunteers in the club provides that, a caring adult relationship outside of their family. Your volunteers provide leadership and recruitment of other volunteers and 4-H members. So utilizing those parents that step up, encouraging those parents to step up, and giving them a job, making them feel like they're a part of the club, and making them feel like they have ownership of a piece of one of those activities. And then those volunteers are providing leadership for 4-H clubs, projects, and activities. Maybe you have a record book project leader. Maybe you have a community service project leader. Those kinds of activities in addition to your subject matter projects. So as a club manager, your focus is to develop that club leadership team. And what all is on that leadership team, we'll cover that in detail in just a few minutes. But your main goal as the club manager is to develop that team and build them up so that they can make the club strong. And you want to play to those to the strength of all of those team members. So try to help them find things they like to do and give them those responsibilities. I know that doesn't really work with your officers, but it certainly can work with your project leaders. Model and maintain open communication. I think we have all been a little frustrated in the last few months. We're not getting as many details. We're not getting as much information as we would like to have, or as much as we're accustomed to having. And I have not modeled that well. I have not been communicating well, but the information has been difficult to get out there to you, or it hasn't come to us for us to send to you. So, as you have felt that, so will your club members feel that. So be sure and keep those lines of communication open, and determine what's going to be the broadest form of communication with the families. You do want to be an active participant in the club functions. Does that mean that you have to be at every single thing that is happening with your club? That's not possible, and that's why you empower volunteers. That's why you have them take on leadership roles. If you have a volunteer that's taking care of community service and they have taken ownership and they feel responsible for it, they know that you are supportive of what they're doing, but that does not mean that you have to be at every single community service activity that's going on. So empower them to do that. So your club leadership team, that's the club managers, that's your club officers, but that's also your project leaders, your activity leaders, your committee advisors, committee chairmen, and those committee members, and team leaders and junior leaders. And I would encourage you to look at having a committee structure within your club. That gives the opportunity for those members who are not quite ready to stand up in front of 30 or 40 or 50 people. But if they're on a committee with 5 or 6 people, they can begin to find their voice. They can begin to voice their opinions. They can feel like they're being a functional member of the club, and need to be a part of that. That's one of the ways that they can grow, and that's one of the ways they can do that step by step. So I do encourage you to have committee members, functional committees. Once again, it is much more efficient for us to sit at home and make a plan and throw that out to the club and have them, rubber stamp approve it. But that doesn't do anything for those members or those parents or volunteers for being able to feel like they have ownership in the club, feel like they're a necessary part of the club. If they have a job to do, maybe they will be more active in your club. Any questions about what all goes on in the leadership team? Qualifications and expectations. I think this is all pretty straightforward. You've got to be at least 18 years of age. If you're not 21, you can't be the only one. But you can volunteer at 18. You apply annually as a volunteer, and this continues to say 4-H Connect. We are moving to 4-H Online, which is the 2.0 version of Connect. That will be coming out on August the 15th. If you need a roster or a list of your club members as we're finishing this year up, be sure to get that printed off or saved in Excel before August the 1st. They are shutting 4-H Connect down August the 1st and transferring everything over, and it will open back up on the 15th as 4-H Online. So do make sure you get that done. You're going to, it's an annual enrollment. We start every year with 0 enrollment. As a volunteer leader, you do have to pass a criminal background check. Montgomery County, I know there are other counties in the state that allow you to, your church background check or your baseball background check, but our finance committee and program development committee, when this came out, determined that it was best to have everybody on the same page and every volunteer in the county going through the exact same background system. So we'll go through that with 4-H Online in the fall. I know I have been asked in the past what kinds of things would keep you from passing the background check. For one, no one will ever know that you didn't pass it. You would get a letter stating that you have not passed it and asking you not to participate as a volunteer leader. If, say, for instance, someone had a DWI, that wouldn't keep them from volunteering as a project leader, but they would be told that they could not transport children to a project meeting, or children that are not their own children. Someone that had an embezzlement might not be completely blocked from participating, but they would be asked or told not to participate in any fundraising activities, or don't be the treasurer for the club, that sort of thing, or don't be a signer on the checking account. So some of the stuff that's out there will not keep them from being a LAM project leader or the record book project leader. It just would keep them from participating in some of the other aspects of it. That information does not come to us. It won't go to you. So if someone is afraid of that showing up or what might show up in that, it's not made public at all. It is completely between them and the state office. They will submit a volunteer application fee, and that's $10 every year now. They run the background check every 3rd year, so that fund builds up to cover that by every 3rd year. And then you do have to complete the trainings on 4-H Connect. There is an adult orientation video, and there is an ensuring a safe environment video that are required. If you or a volunteer is ever going to be considered as a chaperone for an overnight event, then there is a required child protection training that they have to have. And then the club manager training and finance management training are things that we're going to cover in person or virtually this way. And then we ask that you attend county club manager training. So thank you for participating in that tonight. You are expected to work with volunteers and extension professionals to teach and motivate youth. So when we talk about motivating youth, this is not a youth sports event. So we are not ranting and raving at them like the football coach or the baseball coach. It is positive reinforcement and positive motivation. They have joined our organization to have a safe place to try new things out, and we don't want to be ones to make it not a safe feeling place. We want to provide an environment that's nurturing, promotes self-esteem, decision-making, responsibility, and leadership. We do want to have effective in organization and delegation and communication. So maybe that's not one of your strong suits, but maybe your assistant manager is really good at the communication part of it and can help you with that piece of it. Those of you that know me very well know that delegation is not one of my strong suits. I have to work at it very hard and very diligently. But in the cases where I have turned things loose, things happen that I never could imagine. They can do more without me a part of or being limited to my schedule. More things can happen, more exciting things can happen. So delegating that to and sharing the opportunity. If you're not sharing the opportunity, if you're hogging all of the leadership experiences, then the rest of them are missing out on that. So think of it as giving them a leadership opportunity and the opportunity to make themselves better when you delegate some of those things. You do have to work with minimal supervision. I'm not able to be at every single one of your club meetings and officer meetings. With 9 clubs that meet on the 2nd Tuesday of the month, I can't even get to all of those club meetings in 1 year. So you've got the rules and the guidelines with you. You know what's expected of you. I'm more than happy to help and do what I can to support you if you have questions. But I won't be on top of you every time you have a club meeting to make sure. So as a club manager, you are the primary link between the county extension office, the agents, and the 4-H club. You will be getting a monthly chief sheet that has some specific information for you as a club manager. I don't know if you noticed in the agenda that we're going to have a monthly 4-H newsletter instead of every other month. But we will continue with the special information that's needed by you as a club manager. You'll still get that as a chief sheet, but it'll probably be just a one-pager along with the monthly newsletter. The chartering process we've just finished. We usually start poking you about that in April. If you're a new manager, I would hope that you, as you took over from the previous group, you kind of helped with that process so that you'll have at least an introduction to it for the next year. What you will be responsible for this year is the IRS 990N. So most of you can do the e-postcard. This slide says due by the end of January, but over time we have discovered that the IRS is down for updating like January 5th through the 15th. So you'll notice in your correspondence that we are encouraging you to do that Form 990N in November and December before we get into Christmas. That's what maintains your charter. That's what maintains your tax-free status. 4-H is not Texas sales tax free, but it is federal income tax free. And this IRS 990 is your tax return. You won't have to pay taxes, but you do have to commit to them that you've, filled that out and you're doing that postcard. Is there any club? I don't think any of you online have more than 25,000. I think the 25,000 is the tipping point for you to have to go to the next level up of the form. So, as a club manager, you also have to share enrollment information for families. That enrollment information is going to be a little more extensive this year. We are moving to that 4-H online. There will be one-pagers and video clips and all kinds of training that'll be coming out. You'll notice on the agenda, I added in an extra club manager training this year on August the 20th. So that one is if there's any changes to what we can do and where we can go by then, but the other is that to get you a week down the road from 4-H online enrollment and see where you are and how you feel about it and what kind of trouble or what kind of successes you've had with it. Do people really like it? Because some of them really didn't like the other. We need you recruiting members and volunteers. You'll see on the agenda that we are down to 788 4-H members enrolled in 4-H Connect. And that was including all of those that wait till the last minute to do it right before the fair, because we did get fair entries done. So pretty much what we had by the time things shut down for COVID is what we were going to have for the year. Those that have been around for a while know that we're usually between 1,000 and 1,200, but we have been slowly declining. So as you start your club annual club planning process, please include an opportunity to recruit members and volunteers. If you've got over 60 people in your club, you can pass on that. Oh, I flipped back up. Here we go. Train and supervise officers. We've already talked about that part. Manage executive committees and meetings and projects. So you're managing the executive committee. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to also manage the finance committee and also manage the community service committee. You can delegate those things to volunteers. You do want to involve other adults, leaders, parents, youth, and in the club projects and activities. And you want them to help you with your annual club planning. How many of you have had the time to do any annual planning at this point? Nobody. I think we're all sitting on the hot seat, ready to go, but we just cannot. We don't know where to go. We don't know what to do at this point. We're all in that same boat. I did want to meet with you tonight and give you a little bit more of what we know right this minute. And we can sort of plan around that in hopes that it would be less strict as we get closer to our club meetings, but at least you have something in your hand you can begin to talk about. Provide recognition for members and leaders, uphold the rules and guidelines, and be a positive role model. We've hit on those already. My job, what you can expect of me, one is to provide trainings for volunteers and for youth. We do that as best we can. Please be thinking about what kinds of trainings you would like from us. We can definitely provide educational materials and resources, involve and engage 4-H youth in leadership roles. We do that at the county level with our county council. We are available to consult with and listen to your volunteers, to listen to you. Justin and I are both here. For those that are unfamiliar with Justin, he moved from a 4-H position into the urban youth position here in Montgomery County. So he's familiar with the process and the expectations at the club level, and is certainly willing to and can help if I'm not available or if you don't feel comfortable visiting with me. You're going to provide recognition and awards for your volunteers and your youth adult partnerships. I think we've hit on this pretty hard. It is working together in a positive, mutually respectful environment with the recognition that each group contributes unique strengths to the relationship. So we're kind of helping them spread their wings. Not necessarily telling them they can't do it, but helping them, asking them leading questions so that they can begin to see what kinds of things their decisions, what processes their decisions get to. There's 13% of the population that's in the 4-H age for us. If we want them to be active adults in their community, we are going to have to encourage and push them to be active youth in their community right now. And we can do that by making them a partner with us as we develop this 4-H program, as you develop your plan for the year. so that they're well informed and ready to go as policymakers in the future. They are our future. Life skills, leadership, planning, teamwork, they need all those things. How are we going to do that in this stage? We're all still working on that. But ultimately, the capacity to care for others and definitely giving them a sense of pride and being valued, and that they're getting respect from adults and they can give respect to adults. And I think we've hit on most of these pretty good. That open communication is important, between you and the 4-H members, as well as between you and the volunteer leaders. The other thing is divide and conquer. It is difficult for one person to do everything that we've talked about this evening. So play to your strengths, delegate those things that are your weaknesses to recruiting people that can cover those parts for you. Plan. Let's do the best that we can to plan what we can right now so that it doesn't surprise us when we jump up when that meeting night arrives. And I know that this is going to be an extremely difficult year to try to plan. And we're planning things 3 and 4 times. It's driving me nuts. Make sure that you're including your executive committee and holding them accountable to their roles. Have a backup plan, but be prepared for them not to follow through. But encourage them and hold them accountable to doing that. Let's not bail them out every time. That's some of the best learning lessons. And I know I have had people come to me and complaining about how unorganized their club is. The kids are standing up there doing it themselves and nobody's helping them out. And I'm like, but that's the way they learn. And in September and October, it's going to be a little unorganized. They're getting their feet on the ground. If we're running it for them, they're not learning from it. So division of duties, handing out other activities, delegating those kinds of things. Are there any questions about your responsibilities as a club manager? Unshare that. And close that slideshow. I am this one. Okay. All right. Sorry for the pause. I am trying to do too many things at once. Can y'all see the web page at this point? So if you go to texas4-h.tamu.edu, under 4-H management, strategy session recordings. So this is the PowerPoint that I just went through. If you need to go back and look at any of the things we talked about. There is a leadership team module. It gives you detailed definitions of each of the roles in your club that can be in your club. And it gives you a timeline. Thank you, Justin. There is a worksheet for division of duties. So that can be shared. I kind of like this one. It breaks it down into bite-sized pieces. 5 tips to be a successful manager. And the top 10 to be a new club manager. This has got some quick tips and opportunities. This part about making your 4-H club fun. Lots of times I get, I've done this too long, and it's hard for me to get excited and thrilled about, one more time around. But that's not fair to the ones that are participating in it for the first time, and it's sure not going to make them come back and do it again. So anything that we can do to make it fun at the club meeting and break it down into bite-sized pieces will be hopefully keep them coming back and retain those new people you're going to recruit. There is also if you don't know about it, they used to call this Club Ed. Now it's monthly meeting topics. So there is a manager checklist of things you need to do. There's a recreation opportunity suggestion. Here's a community service idea. A flag ceremony, icebreakers, inspiration, program idea. So all of that for one club meeting. If you're struggling with what do I do for this meeting, I need an idea, here's a place where you can go and get it. So a couple of things I will be emailing to you. The link. What is the link to the leadership training for club officers? It's on that flyer. Where did I put that flyer? So there's the link. It's in, I think we posted it to the Facebook page. If it isn't recently on there, we'll try to hit that again in the morning. What else? If you if you if you haven't found this or haven't seen this, I did find a new version. It's the first new one I've seen in a long time. This talks about how to use the 4-H emblem. So if you are going to get officer shirts made, if you're going to get baseball caps made, if you're going to do anything that uses the 4-H clover, then you need to read this carefully and make sure that you are meeting all of those requirements. It gives you an extreme detailed description of it, all the way down to what color it's supposed to be, and how it can be used and how it cannot be used. So make sure that if you're going to get something made with the clover on it, if you're going to do a flyer with the clover on it, make sure that you read this carefully before you get anything done. If you have any questions, send it to us and we will be glad to help you work through that, and make sure that that's a part of it. So I have not found the current financial management guidelines, but on that state 4-H website under management, you will find this document. If you're not familiar with this, you need to make yourself familiar with this. We're not going to go through it in detail tonight, but you do need to create paper trails. If you have a debit or credit card for your account, make sure you're following up with some kind of form that your treasurer is approving those purchases, so that there is a written record of that purchase, that it fits in the budget. If you haven't done your budget yet, you can begin to work on that. Make sure that your budgets have a zero balance. That does not mean that you need to spend every single thing in it and start out next year with zero. That only means that every penny in that account is assigned to something. So if you do a big candle fundraiser, but you need $200 to start that off with, to buy the candles first, then you'll put in there a line item to hold that $200 for the fundraiser for next year. If you're not stockpiling, but if you are having to save over multiple years to buy a large piece of equipment, you will just identify in your budget that you know, here's the line item for the calf scales, and that line item may grow each year. But having a zero budget as a nonprofit doesn't mean that we have to spend all the money. It means that all of the money has to have a designated use as to how it will be intended for it to be used in the future. I don't think I shared this again, sorry. So that is one document that you can, take and do on your own. When we get back together in August, if you have questions about it, we can certainly go over those in detail. Went to the management web page. We talked about enrollment numbers. I do on the new 4-H online enrollment, they will ask you for a new password. They are very strong passwords. So be prepared with a password that is 10 characters. It includes a number, a capital, and a symbol. So as you talk to your 4-H members, as you send out correspondence with them, to be prepared for this process, that's a part of that. Do any of you have families that would or want to do a hard copy of the newsletter? I'm taking that as a no. We'll still offer that opportunity. Okay, Brian and Carrie said yes. When you get those funds to me, if you will have collected their, their name and their contact information, so that we can match it back to that child when it gets in 4-H Connect. Volunteer enrollment process, we've hit on that pretty hard. Publicity and recruitment, I did just skip a big, huge piece. We're doing some advertisement at the county level, so be prepared to have new people join, have new people call. Pecan sales, that information is there. Leadership team training we've hit. So let's hit the big chunk of what is everybody seeing something that says guidelines for conducting? Okay. So this is the process that we have been following in our office since July 1st. And what we understand to need to follow through August the 30th. There were some modifications to this on July 22nd with the updates with the mask. So how many of you have checked with your facility to find out if they will allow you to meet? Okay. So I know Montgomery County is a little less restrictive than other places, but as an extension program, we will be expected to stay within the 25% capacity of the space where we meet. And that is only if social distancing can be practiced. If that's a large enough space that it would allow for 25% 50% to be 50 people, we still can't go over that 50 people. And I will email these out to you so that you have it in your hand. You can see face masks, tables and chairs sanitized, frequently sanitize high touch areas. So the schools, Jimmy said the schools have not had an answer, not given them an answer yet. I know a lot's going to depend on the size of club that you have and the size of facility you meet in. We have some counties that are thinking about having outdoor meetings to accommodate some things. I don't know how well that's going to fly at 110 degrees outside in August, so we'll have to see how that goes. Meals, refreshments, snacks, they need to be prepackaged foods, box lunches, so we cannot do our food and nutrition project ahead of the meeting and then turn around and serve whatever we made in our project meeting. And then there's a whole list of other things that are key considerations and what to be prepared for and what to do. Like I said, I'll send this out to you. One thing that we do have to fill out for any face-to-face meeting is this COVID screening form. They either need to bring it already filled out with them to the meeting, or you need to have copies for them to fill out when they get there. Pens to hand out to them so that you're not passing pens from one hand to the next. And it does have all their contact information on it. And if there is a positive test, that contact information will be used to help the tracking that positive test. I don't know, I've heard enough about the phone call from the tracer to know that they're not providing enough information for someone to figure out who the positive was, unless that positive person is sharing that information themselves. The phone call that you get from the tracer only says that, you were at this location and there is a person who has tested positive that was at that location at the same time. Personally, it'd be nice in my head to get a little more information, so you could find out if you were actually there at the same minute that person was or had contact with them. But that is not what, with the HIPAA requirements, they cannot give you enough information to, this form is one per person. If you have trouble or difficulty with copies, each club does have a code on our copy machine, and you can come and make copies here. The reason that you have a code is and it's only happened twice since I've been here for 23 years. If for some reason we ran over our copy limit, then we would divide out those things by how much, per club, what you used. And then it's like 2 cents a copy or something like that. So the screening form is per person. So every person in the family has to fill it out. I do suspect that little Johnny's mama's cell phone is the number that's going to go on here, but there does have to be one per person. And then there's this other fun form. So if you have decided that you're going to have a live meeting, that's the way we need to do it. We can't have it virtually for one reason or another. Then here is the checklist of things you have to fill out. And basically this is justification as to why and how we are going to move forward with a live in-person meeting. We filled one of these out for each one of the validations that we did. We filled one out for the county horse show. So this document would be something that you and I would talk about together, and how to complete this so that you're ready to move forward with that. Now, this is what we are under as of today, July 23rd, 2020. I will not guarantee that tomorrow we don't get an email saying something different. But at least you have something in your hand so that as you communicate with your officers or with your members in trying to elect officers, how you want to move forward, or a way to move forward at this point. Have I forgotten? Okay, so now that you're tired of looking at my screen, I will. Oh yay, the backdrop stayed there. I'll turn the camera back on. So yes, Heather, it does have to be signed 14 days before a club meeting if you wanted to have a live face-to-face club meeting. Now, your drive-through awards program, I do not think meets that minimum standard of being necessary to go to do that form. So I think your drive-through is fine. Because there wouldn't be any length of contact with those people. And if everybody's wearing a mask, then and you're staying 6 feet apart, then I don't foresee a need for that form. Do mark on your calendar August the 18th. We are having a finance committee meeting on August the 18th. Our next manager meeting will be on August the 20th. And we'll do another one September the 24th. The September 24th one is kind of a standing one that we do annually after you get one club meeting under your belt. But I feel like if we I think that we're going to need to have another here's what's going on kind of meeting on August 20th before we start having club meetings. Heather, I think if it's under 10 people, you don't need to do the form, but I will double check on that. If y'all want to unmute and ask any questions or talk, I don't have any additional things for this evening. I will email you those things so you have them in your hand. And if anybody ever figures out who was trying to join as an unknown member, just let them know that I'm sorry I couldn't. Didn't think I could do that. So let's see. Have I thoroughly muddied the waters for anybody? Totally confused. Oh, Vicky, it wasn't a problem. I'm just glad to know I wasn't leaving, that you were able to join and wasn't leaving anybody out. I just that's one of the other documents that you need in your hands, isn't it? Where did I put it? Rolls. Aha. So I think we have already sent this out to you. But this is a part of the reason I wouldn't accept an unknown. Is these best practices and considerations for virtual online meetings, making sure that we're following protocol, we're keeping our members safe, and some of the platforms to use. Now, as you begin to look at what kinds of equipment or materials, PPE, face masks, is your club, those may be things that you need to start budgeting in your club budget. If your budget is too strapped as it is that something that we need to go to the finance committee with and look at trying to get support that way? Justin and I have talked about purchasing a Zoom account so that it would be this, the paid for account that's supposed to be more secure. I don't know exactly how all that functions, so we'll kind of trip through some of that and see if we can figure it out. But this is a pretty detailed and I think will be helpful. And yes, I will email that, or Justin put the link, but I'll also email it directly to you. Is there anything that I haven't covered tonight that you have a burning question about? I will be glad to hang out and answer questions. I greatly appreciate you coming tonight. I hope this was helpful and useful. Y'all know the next two meetings are normally more roundtable discussions. And I hope that we can get back to that type of meeting so that you're getting more information from, you're getting as much information from each other as you are from me. And I'm really afraid the buzzing I keep hearing is somebody trying to talk and they're just not able to. Thanks again for coming. I appreciate your time, and we will be in touch.